Without question, on this edition of Wolf and Luke, Paulie Pincher is sitting in. The best segment by far of this show is when we open up the phone lines and we let people share their connection to Al McCoy, their recollections, all the anecdotes, and just what he meant to them. And someone who sat next to Al was right there for almost every one of those calls. Joins us now in studio. Tim Kempton, year one on the Suns broadcast team was what year for Al McCoy again?
30. Oh People are getting ready to retire, and Al says, "I think I got 2 more years." It was kind of funny at the beginning of every season. You know, when I kind of re-upped, I said, "What about Al?" And it was Rick Welts and all these people. They said he thinks he's got 2 more years, and that was like the resounding. Al thinks he's got 2 more years. Yeah, he had a couple more than 2. So. He was in year 30 for me, year 1, and I got to work with him for 21 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, Timmy, when you think of Al McCoy, you've got such a unique perspective on this. What are your thoughts, bro?
Yeah, it's first of all, just amazing. I mean, his career was unbelievable. You always talk about the man, the myth, the legend. And the man, he was married to Georgia, 3 sons, grandkids. He was everybody's friend. The myth. You thought he was going to go on forever. It seemed like he would. And then the legend that he left with the calls, his personality. One of the things you listen to all the stories, and you, Wolf, I know you growing up where you grew up, you had someone that you followed, and you tell your kids, "Oh yeah, this great." Well, you don't have to tell them. Granddads and dads and grandkids, they all had the pleasure of listening to Al McCoy. It wasn't, it was like granddads, dads, and grandkids sat around and listened to them together. Granddad didn't have to tell his son, "Oh, yeah, you should have listened to this guy, Al McCoy," and pass it on. Because
multi-generational listeners.
Yeah, there's not people like that anymore that do it with such a passion and such a fervor and such a professional way each and every night that Al McCoy brought it to the Suns listeners.
Tim Kempton joining us, Suns radio analyst. So on my phone, I have a picture of my son when he was 9-10 years old with you and Al, your engineer, Walt Ellis, right? And it's great. How often would that happen? How often would people come up to Al wanting a picture, just a moment of his time?
Ridiculous. And it got worse as we went on because Paul, and Wolf knows in the last 10, 11 years, they've moved us off the floor. And most of the spots are literally right in the stands. So, especially when Al's book came out, we'll be doing a game, and I became more of a bodyguard than anything. People will come up, we both have our headsets on. Al's describing, and someone come up and tap Al on his shoulder.
Oh, no.
And
they want an autograph.
They want an autograph,
and
they don't realize what's going on. But that is the thing that made Al so unique, because it wasn't just Phoenix. It was Al McCoy in NBA basketball. Two of the stories that Al loved to tell. There was a stretch in the Steve Nash era that every year there were these 2 guys that came over from Australia, when we had an extended homestand of 3, 4, 5 games. And they would make a trip every year, and they would come up to us and tell us they listened to our broadcast in Australia.
Wow.
And there was a couple other guys. I played in Europe, so after it got going and I came back, I had friends all the time, texting me, reaching out to the guys that I still talked about, telling me that they're listening to me in Europe. And that was one of the things that Al really loved about radio was its reach, and how much emphasis was put on, TV in the local markets, obviously the big markets, the big money things. But Al loved the reach of radio worldwide that it brought in.
So, Timmy, what do you think people don't talk enough about in regard to Al McCoy? Is there something that comes to mind?
I just think, his strength throughout the years. Everybody knows Al's stature, but it's not easy.
He was 89 years old.
He's in his late 80s. He's bringing it every game. You got a 7-month season, and he hasn't mailed it in.
It was unbelievable.
You travel once a week with the Cardinals.
Yes.
there were plenty of nights, on a road trip where after the game, 11 o'clock, bus to the plane, on the plane, land at 2, bus to the hotel, grab your bags up. And then the next day, in an early tilt or something, 7 o'clock. And Al's bringing it. He's still got the pipes. He's bringing the enthusiasm. His strength throughout his entire career is something that you just assumed. Al's going to show up.
Yeah.
He's always showed up. Al's going to bring that energy. He's always brought that energy. And just the overall strength it took for Al, especially as he got later on in his career, that how much he prepared and how much he loved the game and how much he loved the fans and would bring it for them every night. Yeah.
Tim Kempton in the Auction Studio here as we talk about Al McCoy, his partner for 21 years on the air. All right, let me ask you this.
Sure.
You guys would keep it real when it came to the officiating. All right, Al would get fired up. Did you ever get any blowback from the officials themselves? Because when you guys were courtside, they could probably hear a lot of it.
They can hear a lot, and believe it or not, there's a couple of guys that live in the Valley. There are. So especially on the west side. I'm not going to call him out because Al loves Glendale, and Al would see this one official out every once in a while, and he was like, Al, you're killing us. But here's my thought. I don't know how you think about it in the NFL.
Yeah.
Players get criticized up and down.
Yeah.
Coaches get criticized up and down. We understand the officials are human. Why are they a protected species, especially in the NBA?
See, now, wait a minute.
We as broadcasters can go a little bit further, but players, you can only take it so far because you'll get a call from the NBA because I know.
Okay.
So,
but what about Timmy? The 2 minutes that the NBA...
that's ridiculous. That's throwing them to the wolves. That's throwing them to the wolves.
What do you mean by that? I mean, isn't that accountability right there?
The game's 48 minutes long, Wolf. The game's 48 minutes long. So
I'm sorry I brought it up.
So something in the 6th minute could have affected those last 2 minutes where the game should have even been within 5 for the last 2 minutes.
Timmy's all fired up.
I know. I'm sorry. Let me change it quick, Calvisi. Get up to the line of scrimmage and call an audible.
Some of the great things. So early on in our career when we first traveled, we didn't jump in and out as quick.
Yeah.
And every once in a while we get off the plane and Al would give me the heads up. He'd go, hey, what are you doing tonight? And he goes, you want to go to dinner? I go, yeah. And Al would take me to one of his old haunts, the older cities, San Francisco, Seattle. And Al would walk in.
Scomas.
Yeah, exactly. these little joints, and they all had a piano in them. And Al would go walking in there, and his buddy, there would be 3 or 4 guys saying, Al McCoy, welcome back. You guys in town to play? And Al would jump up, play a couple of tunes. We'd go up to the bar, have a couple of drinks, have a meal there in his old haunts. So I got to see, a little bit of the old school, the way Al did it in the heyday, traveling with Joe Prosky and Cott Fitzsimmons when those guys were running it. Yeah,
that's outstanding.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, when you think of him as a broadcaster, like Walt Ellis just texted me, your engineer, that he used to be a DJ back in the day. We had a caller say he used to listen to him. He'd do a 4-hour radio show. He's spinning tunes.
Well, he absolutely loved the radio. He that was his first love, and he was really, really good at it. One of the things that I always liked about Al with those calls, everybody. A lot of people have their catchphrases to bring attention to themselves. Al had catchphrases to bring attention to the players and to the listeners. When he said Shazam, what was it? It was a 3-pointer.
Sure.
When he said Zingo the strings, you knew it was a jumper and it was a swish shot. Wham, bam, slam. It was those catchphrases that added to the broadcast, add a little spice, but it also helped the listener get a picture of just what happened on the floor.
Yeah, Timmy, this is a producer question right here from Command and Control right now, but it's a good one. Is there one memory? Is there one, your favorite memory? Is there one that you would pick or could pick?
Yeah, it's kind of...
Yeah, buddy, I know.
21 years together. I mean, and all the road trips together.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny, but it started when
It's okay, buddy. Take your time, man. I get it. You know what, Timmy? And I say this all the time. That's a strength, bro. It's a strength.
But, when they started adding those young kids, we went to a dry plane. And as you very well know, as I very well know, Al liked his cocktail at the end of the night. So there was just one time we started having these youngsters go to a dry plane, and we're someplace, and we get on the plane. It's 11 o'clock at night, and Al goes, man, I sure wish I could have one right now. And I say, hey, partner, I said, I think I can handle that. And I had a bottle, and I had a bottle in my knapsack, and I poured us a couple of drinks, and we had it. So what that turned into is every once in a while, dozen times a year on the road, hey, partner, let's have one. And it was usually when we landed and we got to a hotel and, landed late, bars closed, you're still jazzed from the game. And I'd grab the bottle, grab the ice, knock on his door, and Al and I would sit there and talk. Sometimes it'd be about the game.
Whoa.
Sometimes it would be about, a lot of times it would be, he asked me about my family, my kids. He'd be talking about his kids and his grandkids and where it went.
He was such a great conversationalist.
Yeah, and, I don't know. This is, probably the first time I ever told anybody because no one ever asked. But having those moments with Al, someone like that, it was about basketball, but it was about our relationship because at 2 o'clock in the morning, you're still wound up from the game. And who are you going to call? Is he going to call Georgia at 2 o'clock and wake her up and, get something off his shoulders? Maybe it might have been the officials that night. Maybe it was David. Hey, David Stern, by the way, you can run, but you can't hide, David Stern. Al McCoy is on the way. He's got a couple of questions for you about the way you ran the NBA and the way you handled the Suns in the playoffs a couple of times. So you can run, but you can't hide.
My last question. Of all the teams you played on, all the teammates you had, would you put Al McCoy at the top of that list, just considering the longevity and how much time you guys spent together away from the game?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. One of the things we always said, at the end of the night, he'd sign off so long for now and be like, okay, partner, see you later. You go, okay, partner, whether it was see you at the plane tomorrow, partner, or games in 2 nights, see you back here Wednesday night, partner. So that was us, we always called each other partners. So it was a pretty cool team. He and I, it was a small team. Right. But it was it was pretty cool. There were times that we shared. One story I got to tell. I've told this story a million times, and Wolf, you can appreciate this being on radio. But there's a very small window for a basketball analyst to get his 2 points in, because when the ball gets to half court, you got to get it back to Al. So when I first started with Al, I went to a last exhibition game of the season up in Portland, playing the Trailblazers in the old Rose Garden. And for all the guys that turned it down, I guarantee you there were 4 or 5 guys, Chambers, Marley, Eddie Johnson. They all wanted the TV gig. And this is when Cotton got sick, so they needed someone to fill in. So they came to me. But one of the things, and Eddie Johnson and I talked about this as well, because he did it to Eddie as well. And he gave us the finger. And what I'm meaning by that, you're sitting next to Dave Pash. Al, in the peripheral vision, as he's talking, I could see his hand come up and see his fingers start to come out, and he'd pop. And he'd point at me. And for me, it was a lot of comfort, because I knew, okay, this is a segment I'm going to get to talk, get your point in, go, and then need to give it back. And Eddie was the first one to pick it up because he had worked with Al before. So when I started, he'd come over and chuckle, hey, did you get the finger from Al tonight? But it was very comforting to me at the time, because I was brand new to radio broadcasting, and I, getting the timing and everything down with Al was important, and he made it very easy for me at that time.
Thank you so much for coming down here.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for opening up.
Awesome.
Yeah. Everyone, yes, that's all right. We're going to come back. We're going to put a bow on this one. We'll get in a little bit of the aftermath of the Cardinals and Lions all next. Calvisi in for Luke, Wolf and Luke on Arizona Sports, the local sports leader. Once again, special thanks to Tim Kempton, 21 years together with Al McCoy.
Thanks for watching Wolf and Luke. Tap to see more and click the button in the middle to subscribe to Arizona Sports.